I'm Becky Davis with City TV. Welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. Every day, each person in Santa Barbara contributes about 100 gallons of wastewater into the sewer system. But what happens to it, and where does it all go? Up next, City TV's Chris Bell gives us a brief history of the El Estero wastewater treatment plant and highlights some recent improvements that have put the facility on the cutting edge of technology.
If one were to make a list of things we take for granted, somewhere at the top would be public sanitation. In the early days of the city, it was a subject that raised quite a stink, literally. In fact, up until the 1880s, Santa Barbara's sewer system consisted of a series of open pipes along State Street leading to the ocean. The only thing as bad as their effectiveness was the smell. Residences and businesses not on State Street would simply dispose of their waste on site. The smell and fears of disease had many in the community calling for action. Here's an excerpt from a newspaper editorial in 1876.
The war upon these enemies of life and health is an unending conflict, and if not steadily maintained by the champions of cleanliness, the community will surely someday be given over to the hosts of pollution, perhaps to the ravages of pestilence.
The city was spared the ravages of pestilence by sewers constructed soon thereafter, but the problem was merely shifted offshore, with raw, untreated wastewater simply being pumped directly to the ocean, close to shore. The tactic surprisingly was used until the 1950s.
The solution to pollution was dilution, and often it was just sort of a septic tank system that communities had, and they tried to keep the solids in the tank the best they could and discharge the raw effluent into the ocean.
In 1971, there were some federal regulations that were implemented to help protect the water where waste discharges were going. And it required that people go to a better type of treatment. And so anticipating that, what was going to be regulated and the type of plant that we would need, the city built a plant in 1979 that had something called full secondary treatment, which not only settled the solids out, but then actually went into a further type of treatment to remove more things from the wastewater before all the water went out to the ocean.
Wastewater treatment in our city has come a long way from the days of the open pipe sewer and the glorified septic tank. Today, a state-of-the-art facility utilizing 254 miles of sewer mains treats 6 to 7 million gallons of wastewater every day.
The El Estero treatment plant receives all that wastewater and runs it through a combination of physical, chemical, and biological processes to remove contaminants from the wastewater to a very large degree. We meet all applicable federal and state standards.
It's a complex, highly regulated operation that's online 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But with much of the infrastructure dating back to the 1970s, the plant is in need of some work.
A lot of the facilities have reached their useful life, and so we're methodically going through the plant and replacing a lot of the systems. And with that, we're actually able to include some more efficient and better technology to improve the treatment process.
In 2012, staff initiated a system-wide upgrade and replacement program going from process area to process area. Work started at the beginning of the line, otherwise known as the headworks.
And that's where we screen out the heavier objects, the larger objects that we don't want going downstream to potentially damage our, mainly our influent pumps. So it screens out things like tree branches, diapers, paper towels, all of that big stuff you don't want going downstream into your treatment.
Last year, El Estero completed a cutting-edge cogeneration project that takes fats, oils, and grease collected from local restaurants and uses them to produce energy.
With the addition of those fats, oil, and grease, the bacteria in the digesters are able to produce more methane gas than they otherwise would, and we're able to boost our biogas production by between 10 and 20%. And with that, we're able to then create more power and better serve our treatment plant to keep our electrical costs down.
The cogen project not only produces about half the plant's electricity needs, the heat from the process is utilized as well. And by reducing truck trips, the system improves air quality.
Prior to us constructing this facility, Marburg was disposing of those materials or trucking them off-site to other communities far away, such as Bakersfield. So the community is saving in air quality from the standpoint that less materials have to be trucked far away to other communities to dispose of or utilize those wastes.
The next process to be upgraded is tertiary treatment, which produces recycled water.
The old facility was demolished as part of this project, and it's going to be an ultrafiltration, microfiltration facility where we will be treating about 3 million gallons or up to 3 million gallons of wastewater a day to standards that we can use for recycled water.
And what that does is, instead of using a potable water for that, we can use something different, frees up water supplies for, regular potable consumption that people can use. So rather than watering a lawn with a potable water, we can use this recycled water and free that up for someone else to drink.
The tertiary facility is slated to be completed this fall. Looking ahead, the next area of focus will be the secondary process, where microorganisms are used to degrade the waste.
We usually can't meet our turbidity requirements for our recycled water because of our secondary effluent, which feeds the tertiary treatment. So that will be one of the things that I'll be addressing, as well as operational inflexibilities, energy efficiencies, secondary treatment capacity as it pertains to high weather flows.
And as staff strives to increase efficiency and functionality at the plant, they're also working to improve public understanding by offering tours of the facility.
We are trying to educate people about the importance of wastewater treatment and specifically how we perform wastewater treatment here at El Estero. They do their dishes, they flush the toilet, they're taking a shower. That water does go somewhere. And in Santa Barbara, it comes here. So that can be powerful just enough to know that that stuff gets taken care of.
The tours are given to students from preschool to postdoc with curriculum customized to each age group.
We can say it's treated biologically and they get to see, what is that? Well, it's basically fed to the microorganisms. So, that's powerful for them to understand. It isn't just chemicals doing this. This is just, biology, and we just enhance kind of natural processes here at El Estero, the things that actually happen in natural water bodies.
The staff at El Estero, our champions of cleanliness, don't expect you to understand the biology of wastewater treatment. What they would like you to know is they take this responsibility that is so crucial to our safety and quality of life very seriously.
People don't really know about it, or they don't want to know about it, but we do take awful lot of pride in the people proud of the work they do and know how important it is for the health and well-being of the environment and the community.
I think the important thing for our citizens to know is that we're professionals, we're doing our jobs 7, 24, 365 days a year, and we're serving the community at the highest level to make sure that the community's wastewater is treated properly and either reused or disposed of in an appropriate manner.
To learn more about the El Estero Wastewater Treatment Plant, visit santabarbaraca.gov/water. How many times a day do we turn on the faucet or flush the toilet without thinking twice about how that water gets there? If you've ever had the water shut off to your home or neighborhood, you know how much we take the water distribution process for granted. Up next, we examine what happens when a water main break occurs and what the city does to repair them. Century-old water main infrastructure poses a challenge for communities nationwide. In fact, much of the country's potable water mains are nearing the end of their useful life, a contributing factor in 4.7 million water main breaks in the U.S. since 2000. The city's water distribution system is comprised of 300 miles of pipes that convey water to residents and businesses. The Water Resources Division works day and night to keep the complex water system running smoothly.
The water distribution system is a 24/7 operation that we have emergency workers on call and on shift at the later hours of the day to respond to emergencies. And staff have to be ready at the middle of the night. We get calls at 11 p.m., at 3 a.m., and sometimes guys come in and they're working from 11 p.m. at night all the way through to the next day. So it's important to understand that this is not something that rests. We all need water at all times.
When dealing with water distribution, water main breaks are an unfortunate reality that must be dealt with quickly and efficiently. Part of the solution comes by understanding why these breaks occur.
Typically in the colder months, we'll experience a spike in water main breaks. Some of that's due to lower temperatures in the freezing range, but also unique rain events where we get a lot of rain and the ground gets saturated. We tend to notice more main breaks during that time.
The pipes range in ages. There are actually some pipes in the ground from the late 1800s. In general, the average age is about 44 years old, but a lot of the expansion in our distribution system occurred in the post-World War I and post-World War II eras. The majority of those pipes were installed with cast iron. A study done by Utah State surveyed 188 water utilities, and from that data, they determined that cast iron is one of the pipe materials most susceptible to breakage.
With such an old system in place, it's not a matter of if a break will occur, but when. Fortunately, when a break does occur, the Water Resources Division is prepared with a plan of action.
ISB Control Tower City of Santa Barbara is requesting an emergency mark now.
As soon as they receive a call, city distribution crews deploy a rapid response.
This is 638 Control Tower. What can I do for you?
Can you please investigate a possible WD1 at East Haley?
10-4, 638. They would give me a location. I would go into my office and I would look at our MAPS program, get the information of the size of the main, how many people are going to be affected. It could be a kidney dialysis center or the hospital or something like that. And those are special cases. We would have to deal with those in a special type of way. I would go out and get the information on the maps, go out into the field, initiate a shutdown, close the street if necessary, if the water main break has damaged the street in any way. And then I would call in appropriate staff, let the supervisors and the managers know, and we would start initiating repairs, call out the utility companies for emergency mark and locate, and we would go out and we would dig it up and fix it.
Before digging can begin, the city must locate the utilities and shut off the proper valves to stop the flow of water. Once traffic control is set up, crews can begin to repair the break. After the repair is complete, water sampling is performed to ensure that water quality is up to appropriate standards, and information is collected to help identify the cause of the break.
We'll take the data we collect during the incident for the main break, and we'll use that data to help track our failures in our system, and we'll input that information into our GIS so we can map it out and plan for water main replacement efforts.
The crews who carry out this operation have years of hands-on experience and are also highly trained and certified as water distribution operators.
The state of California administers a certification program. They actually administer 4 programs. One is for water distribution operators. There's another one for water treatment operators, another for wastewater treatment operators, and yet another for wastewater collections operations. The qualifications range from 1 to 5, and in order to qualify to take a particular exam, you have to demonstrate that you have successfully completed the necessary coursework and that you have the required amount of on-the-job experience. So in order to get to the highest level of certification, you're still going to need 5 to 6 years of on-the-job experience in order to reach that level. Once you've obtained a certain certification level, then you also have to get continuing hours that show that you are staying current with the latest technologies and regulations, and so that you're aware of what is happening in the water industry.
The city's preventative maintenance program includes regularly exercising water distribution system valves to ensure they are operable.
So water mains have isolation valves that are used to minimize disruption during a water main break, and also to control the system if there's any need for a scheduled shutdown. We exercise 7,500 valves biannually, so we make a significant effort to exercise our valves and make sure that they're working properly so that we can minimize disruption to the city.
In recent years, we have had main breaks around 60 to 80 per year. That's trending downward from a period of 1986 to 1995. We experienced an average of 105 main breaks. So council set a policy to replace 1% of the city's pipelines each year. And so we're starting to see results from the proactive approach of taking the mains that are more problematic and break more frequently and putting new pipe in the ground and seeing less breaks.
The City Council has a policy to replace 1% of the system each year, which equates to 3 miles of pipeline annually.
Our goal is to minimize any disruptions in service, to respond to the emergency as quickly as possible, to make the repairs as safely and quickly as possible. In the long run, we are working for our customers, and we want our customers to experience as few service disruptions as possible and as minimal of a service disruption as possible.
If you see a water main break, please report it immediately by calling 564-5413. Tune in next episode as we continue our tour of the water distribution system and explore the water main replacement program. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
Meet the most fascinating man in the world. When droughts happen, water experts go to him for water-saving actions. His front lawn requires no water because he replaced it with water-wise plants. He only works 2 days a week, and so do his sprinklers. He uses so little water, overwatered plants seek refuge in his yard.
I know a lot about saving water, but when I want to know more, I go to waterwisesp.org. Let's save together, my friends.
No way you're gonna pick that up. It's easy to bag it up and toss it in the trash. Come on, it's natural. It's basically fertilizer. If you consider bacteria-laden feces fertilizer, it'll wash into the storm drains and flow into our creeks and oceans. You want to swim in that, swim in that, swim in that.
Remember, the ocean begins on your street.
Welcome back. Each year, the City of Santa Barbara's Water Conservation Program gives out the Water Hero Award to recognize individuals, businesses, and organizations that go above and beyond in their water conservation efforts. This year's recipient has done just that and is a wonderful example of resource efficiency in our community. Located right along the Pacific Ocean, it's no wonder students come from all over the world to attend Santa Barbara City College. In fact, it was recently named the #1 community college in the nation, not only for its beauty, but for its academic achievements as well. And that's not all the SBCC has to be proud of. They have also taken many steps to reduce their water usage, which is why they were named the City of Santa Barbara's 2014 Water Hero.
We've taken a several-step approach to reduce the landscape water, retrofitting our existing spray systems, changing landscape from turf to more drought-tolerant species of landscape pallets, and also flat-out turning off certain areas of the campus to save that water for the areas that really have rare trees or specialized plants that actually need that extra water.
In 2013, SBCC participated in the city's WaterWise survey and incentive program. The program offers free water use surveys to select commercial, industrial, and institutional water customers, also known as CII.
The city actually approached us with the CII program. We were already looking internally at different ways to be able to reduce our water use, but the city offered to come through and do the survey which was really, really helpful because sometimes we don't have the resources or the time to be able to do that kind of thing.
As part of the program, a full indoor water use study was conducted, and recommendations for improving water use efficiency were presented to the participants. With potential savings of $35,000 annually, SBCC took that information and began implementing water-wise changes throughout their campus.
We did our own building-by-building survey, so we used the report as a basis, and then we went back on our own and went faucet by faucet, building by building, and did measurements on flows. And then when we retrofitted them, because we had flow restrictors, we knew exactly what the amount of water was that was coming out of the faucet at that point. So we compared the before and after, and in most buildings we were able to achieve water savings approaching 60%.
We've changed out several turf areas, especially in front of our new humanities building, to a bioswale, drought-tolerant, water-gathering rain garden. We sheet mulched the area across from there, and just generally tried not to put turf back when it was disturbed by the construction project.
Other retrofits included changing faucets, adding spray valves and aerators in the science buildings and kitchens, changing shower heads in all of the locker rooms, and even shutting down their ornamental water fountain.
Probably my most prideful piece of work during this time was the creation of a new planted fountain on the East Campus, where we have all of our student service graduations and ceremonies. Usually we have a beautiful fountain there, but to reduce the water usage, we filled it in with different succulents and native plants to create a water-like look without using any water.
Another major change that took place was at SBCC's Schott campus, where about 20% of the turf was removed and replaced with a water-wise rain garden.
So this, what used to be turf grass, is now on drip, and once these native and drought-tolerant plants become established, we can turn that drip off for most of the year. So this eventually, which goes from little use of water, eventually will go to like little to none.
Changes like these not only benefit SBCC directly, but the entire community as well.
This is like an educational site that anyone walking by can see and hope, educate themselves on what a water-friendly garden might look like and some options. Also options of some different variety of plants that you may or may not see. It's also, we get more birds and insects that never were here before. Because there's a reason for them to be here. There's a variety of flowering plants that are now here.
And they're still not done. SBCC hopes to achieve LEED Gold certification this year with their newly constructed West Campus classroom and office building, which will include a bioswale for harvesting rainwater, a vegetated rooftop garden, and restrooms that use recycled water.
We've been very fortunate to have the support of the local nurseries, the city of Santa Barbara in terms of rebate programs. Really, there's a tremendous amount of opportunities to take advantage of this crisis and turn it into an opportunity, and really take the time to adjust kind of our cultural look at how we take care of our landscape.
In the future, City College plans to continue spreading the message of water conservation throughout their campus.
But we have a digital kiosk, so we have a message there running for the next 2.5 years. That was just the measure we took. We also have what we call our pipeline, which is our online system where not just staff, but students as well can see ads that flash across their page. And one of those ads is a water conservation ad.
The students are amazing because they're really out there making sure that the college is being as efficient as it can be, and have, notified me and even our president on several occasions when they felt like possibly we weren't being as efficient as we could be with our resources.
The hard thing for me as a native Californian is when people stop thinking that they're in a drought. Because given the climate here and the history, we should be in a permanent drought state of mind, and in that sense a drought like this is an opportunity to do the right thing and to save water. And when you retrofit all of this plumbing, the savings carry forward for years.
Congratulations to Santa Barbara City College for being the 2014 Water Hero. For more information on how you can conserve water, visit santabarbaraca.gov/waterwise. Next year's Water Hero could be you. Did you know the city is giving away free rain sensors? Up next, find out how they work and how they save water.
Hi, I'm Kathy Perret with the City of Santa Barbara's Water Conservation Program. We're going to show you today a wonderful, wonderful tool. It's called a rain shutoff sensor. Basically, it's an interrupter, so if your sprinklers are on, it starts to rain, your sprinklers turn off. Say it rained at midnight and your sprinklers are supposed to come on at 5 in the morning. You don't have to run downstairs in your pajamas to turn it off. It'll automatically interrupt the watering cycle, keep it off for 2 or 3 days so that it gives you a convenient time to go down and turn your controller to off. I'll show you a couple little things here about the rain sensor itself before we install it. The rain sensor is actually composed of a stack of little felt wafers in here. When the rain comes in through the top, you get about 1/4 inch. It'll swell those little wafers up and it'll depress a switch which interrupts the electrical current going from your controller out to the valves in your irrigation. You want to close that down almost to the end so that it'll stay wet. It won't dry out quite as quick and it'll keep your controller in the off mode for 3 to 4 days. Before you install this on your roof, you can test it. There's a little push-up button right in here. Once it's wired in, you want to turn your controller on to see the water come on. You push the button down and hold it. That will depress that on-off switch. Your sprinklers will shut off. Let it go. The sprinklers will come back on. You know you have it wired properly and it's going to work the next time it rains. The rain sensor is a very easy device to install. It has 2 wires. That's all that you need to connect to your controller. There's no polarity, so there's no shock. You can connect the red wire first and then the black, or the black wire and then the red. It really doesn't matter. You're going to open the front of your controller face. You're going to look for the jumper wire. Sometimes it's yellow. This one's black. And underneath, it'll usually say sensor, sensor, or it'll say RS for rain sensor. Use your little screwdriver to remove that jumper wire. Then you'll replace that jumper wire with one of the rain sensor wires in one port, the other rain sensor wire in the other port. That's all there is to it. We've got it on manual. The sprinklers are on. And you can see on here my sensor is active. When I push the buttons down, the red light goes to red, and my sprinkler's turned off. It's assuming it rained. Release it, goes back to green light. The sprinklers come back on. The electricity's running through this, and it's running again. One last bit of advice. When you install this, you don't want to put it under the eaves. You don't want to put it under trees. It needs to actually be in the rain so that it has a clear shot facing up. I have had people install it upside down so the rain would run out, but that's not the way it goes. So, easy to do. Run it through the hole, attach it through those 2 sensor terminals, take your wire, run it up. I would put it on the outside of my patio, but depending on your house, you'll have to see what's the easiest way to get to.
To see how you can get your free rain sensor, visit santabarbaraca.gov/waterwise. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
Come on, man. You know that storm drain leads straight into our creeks and ocean. It's only a little. Just dump it. It only takes a little to pollute the water.
Besides, you want to swim in that? Swim in that? Swim in that?
Remember, the ocean begins on your street. Meet the most fascinating man in the world. When droughts happen, water experts go to him for water-saving actions. His front lawn requires no water because he replaced it with water-wise plants. He only works 2 days a week, and so do his sprinklers. He uses so little water, overwatered plants seek refuge in his yard.
I know a lot about saving water, but when I want to know more, I go to waterwisesp.org. Let's save together, my friends.
back. Serving as Santa Barbara's main connection between local businesses, Stearns Wharf, the harbor, and beautiful beaches, Cabrillo Boulevard is a busy thoroughfare for tourists and residents. As you make your way along this bustling boulevard, you will notice a lot of change in progress, especially here at the State Street intersection. This story highlights a major public works improvement and provides information on what to expect over the next 2 years. Attracting around 6,000 pedestrians and 23,000 vehicles daily, Cabrillo Boulevard is a heavily traveled area, and the bridge crossing Mission Creek is a major component of its infrastructure.
So the Cabrillo Boulevard Bridge was originally built in 1913, and then it was added to at subsequent years later. And so the bridge itself actually doesn't line up. Because it wasn't built at one time, the supports underneath the bridge aren't aligned for the best water flow. So in addition to that, the bridge itself is over 100 years old. And these bridges in our areas last about 100 years. So it's definitely time to replace it. There are improvements both to vehicular safety standards and structural safety standards for earthquake safety. And the new bridge will meet all of those requirements, as well as be built as one continuous bridge in terms of the design, so that we have better water flow capacity under the bridge, which is better for Mission Creek.
In addition to replacing the bridge, there are many improvements for Mission Creek, including improved creek banks and restored wildlife habitat for steelhead trout and tidewater gobies. With the new bridge, Santa Barbarans will have the same on-street functionality with new enhancements.
The lanes will stay the same, 2 lanes in each direction, a center turn lane. And we will have improved sidewalks both on the north and south side of the bridge. They're very narrow currently, and that's a big improvement.
As a critical project for the safety and access along Cabrillo Boulevard, this bridge replacement qualifies for the Federal Highway Bridge Program. The Federal Bridge Program funds 88.5% of the Cabrillo Bridge replacement's $26 million total cost. The remainder is covered by the City Streets Capital Fund. Due to the waterfront's popularity and intensity of use, the city has made minimizing the impact of the project on the businesses, restaurants, hotels, and the public a main priority. At least one traffic lane in each direction and walkways in the park will remain open during construction. By staging the project over 2 years, Cabrillo Boulevard will remain open throughout construction.
So the project is being built in 3 stages. The first stage has a lot of preliminary utility work. That will occur for the next month or so. Then we're going to switch to stage 2, which will replace the mountain side of the bridge. And then we're going to switch to stage 3, which is the beach side. And all of that staging means that we can keep Cabrillo Boulevard open during construction, both for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists, which means that the impacts both to people who want to come and just use the area for fun, they can still do that, but also the impacts to businesses are reduced because we're able to keep it open.
The project began late in the fall of 2014 and will continue throughout 2016. Crews have already cleared initial areas for the new bridge installation and begun moving utilities.
Stage 1 included partial demolition of a nearby building, and right now behind me we're relocating a large sewer main to clear construction for the bridge later this year. There's a gas main running across the bridge. There's also a reclaimed water line. It feeds various irrigation systems throughout town. There's also a small potable water line, and then there's also some streetlight lines. And then Verizon has a telephone line going across the bridge. And the utilities will be relocated temporarily during construction.
After completing the north side of the bridge, construction will cross over Cabrillo Boulevard and rebuild the south side. A temporary multi-purpose pedestrian path will be put into place so the public is still able to utilize the beachway. As you explore the lower State Street area, you can see several other construction projects in the immediate vicinity of the Cabrillo Bridge replacement.
There's the new Children's Museum, or Museum of Exploration and Innovation, right next to the railroad tracks at State Street. And then also we have, of course, the La Entrada project that is doing some significant private development, including a new hotel, which involves also widening the sidewalks along State Street to make it more of a pedestrian mall feeling. We've been working hard to coordinate with all the developers to make sure that we're all working together and minimize that disruption to the public.
The Cabrillo Bridge will reopen in late 2016. The roadway will be in the same configuration as it is today, but with enhanced sidewalks and improvements to Mission Creek. For more information on the Cabrillo Bridge project, visit santabarbaraca.gov/Cabrillo Bridge or call 897-2637. Santa Barbara has a rich aviation history. Up next, we preview City TV's new documentary, A History of Santa Barbara Aviation Above and Beyond.
Didier Masson's plane went up and just thrilled the crowds out there. So he just clips the palm trees and lands on the front lawn of the Potter Hotel. The people just go ballistic. They come streaming out of the hotel. They pull him out of the airplane. They're toasting him with champagne. I mean, he just got a rock star's welcome to the Potter Hotel.
When the Lockheeds decided to come down here, their first airplane of anything was a homemade, what they called Model G seaplane.
Top star Mary Miles Minter christened the airplane when it was on its initial voyage down the ramp. The plane took off, and it was a great success for the Lockheed brothers.
Ovington, it was really a dangerous stunt to have this large sack of mail on his lap while he's trying to fly a plane. And he knew that he couldn't land the plane with this bag, so he made arrangements beforehand to let the field in Mineola know that he was going to just throw it overboard.
I remember going out there and watching the DC-3 come in and landing on a dirt field.
Well, United Airlines, and it's kind of its former self, started service at the Santa Barbara Airport, actually before it was the Santa Barbara Airport, in 1936.
The community voted, and the headline said 10,000 people to vote, and the bond issue was $149,000, and the community purchased the land for their designated as a Santa Barbara Airport.
My father lived at a very interesting time because he learned to fly in a Jenny, and his last airplane was a twin-engine jet. So it was a pretty interesting time in aviation. We certainly aren't going to see that again.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941.
With the creation of the Marine base, suddenly we've got a much greater demand for flying, especially for landing strips.
The target plane would fly straight and level, but the other planes would dive past the target, and you'd have to shoot at it as you went by, or they'd come up this way, and you have to shoot at it as you went back up.
One of the clubs here in town put on these sports car road races, and the old Flight Line restaurant was right in the middle of the pit area.
The starting line was kind of out on this ramp out here, and then they went around up one of the runways and around a few of the buildings, came by the hangar, came down this road, and now back to the starting line or finish.
It was interesting. It was the longest series race like that in the United States at the time, and it raised a lot of money for the community.
Jack Conroy, he was of course, the president of Aerospace Lines, a new company. He liked Santa Barbara, and so it was his idea to move the whole operation to Santa Barbara.
I think probably one of the busiest fires that I was on while I was down there was the Murray fire. We had 13 air tankers there at any given time. So it was pretty much nonstop all day from sun up to sundown.
We've had, over the years, the Dalai Lama come in. He was being hosted by UCSB. Of course, many actors and actresses, politicians. This seemed to be one of their whistle stops during election years. So for a small airport, it was, it's a pretty exciting little place, I think, because Santa Barbara area is so progressive.
I think the finished airport is very beautiful. It's an example of a community coming together and designing something for the future.
But I also feel really proud that we're able to construct a new terminal that meets modern passenger needs and also is beautiful.
We wanted to do something that was, to us as artists, what inspired us emotionally about Santa Barbara.
The airline industry, the aviation industry as we know it, it will change, it will move on, it will add, it will increase, it will do lots of things. The hope is that this core building will allow for that flexibility.
I think my favorite days would be when someone solar the first time.
I think aviation is unique in a way that it's a family endeavor.
It is a small airfield, and it is a small community within the airfield.
When I was a young kid, there were two big treats in my life, and that was to go drive out to the airport, which of course was almost a cross-country trip in those days, or go to the railroad station and watch trains. So the airport thing stuck better than the train.
A History of Santa Barbara Aviation Above and Beyond will premiere on City TV beginning in March. Check your TV listings for dates and times. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
We had just been informed that the National Weather Service had declared a flash flood watch.
Officials are saying that residents of the Mission Creek area need to prepare to evacuate.
Be radio ready.
If the county does declare a flash flood warning, the residents of the area will be told to leave their homes.
Know where to go for information during a disaster.
Some roads are closed, and I've been told that the county is providing sandbags for free to homeowners at fire stations.
To find out which stations are radio ready, go to awareandprepare.org.
Some things are just plain simple, like flying in and out of Santa Barbara Airport. With 5 major airlines offering non-stop flights and one-stop connections to anywhere in the world, it's easy come, easy go. Enjoy casual and fine dining, or shop and get some work done while you wait. It's everything a big city airport can offer in the comfort of your own backyard. Santa Barbara Airport. Easy come, easy go.
Welcome back. If you've played at Santa Barbara Golf Club lately, you may have noticed some significant changes. But these changes are more than just a landscaping facelift. They improve the water quality and habitat of a local creek. Matthew Meyer has the story.
Las Positas Creek is a natural stream that runs along Las Positas Road and eventually flows into the ocean at Arroyo Burro Beach. But if you were to have seen it 6 or more years ago, you probably wouldn't have known it was a creek at all.
The creek didn't really look like a creek anymore, and a lot of the golfers and users of this area really didn't realize that we were standing in a creek bed.
Soon after being established in January of 2001, the Creeks Division identified Upper Las Positas Creek as a prime target for restoration. Water quality was below standards, and the golf course was one of the few large open areas owned by the city. After years of design, construction of the massive project began in 2009.
So what we did in this project was we took a creek that had basically been manipulated as part of the golf course and was covered with turf, and we removed the turf and reinstalled a lot of native plants. We have thousands of native plants in there, and what those plants do is they uptake a lot of nutrients and other pollutants from the water as the water is moving through the creek channel, and so they're able to treat that water pollution naturally.
In addition to water cleansing plant life, the restoration project included the installation of large retention basins for catching stormwater. These ponds play an important role by naturally processing pollution.
So when we have rainstorms, we're able to capture approximately 4 million gallons of contaminated stormwater on site and allow that water to be treated through infiltration into the soil, where microbes in the soil will consume the pollutants, or through evaporation or through plant uptake.
Once the retention basins have naturally filtered the stormwater, The pond's unique design gives the city control over how quickly to release water back into the creek system.
So this project it has a lot of engineering designs and controls that are built into the project. And so this basin behind me actually has a valve on it on the downstream end that we're able to open and slowly release water. For example, if we were to have a large storm forecasted, we could open up the valve today and let it slowly drain out into Las Positas Creek, and then have a large volume of storage available for an incoming rain. Most of the rains that we get in Santa Barbara are on the order of 2 inches or less per storm event. And so this basin will actually fill up and hold a 2-inch rain.
The ability to capture all of the water from small storms and hold it in one location allows the Creeks Division to mitigate problems like erosion and downstream flooding. At the same time, the water-filled retention basins provide other benefits.
That creates habitat. Instead of just a dry creek bed, which you would have now, it's been about a week or so since the last rain. Now we have this stormwater that's sitting here, and it's valuable habitat in an otherwise dry Mediterranean climate.
The retention ponds, which provide a home for various species of ducks and plant life, aren't the only habitat created by the restoration project. Where non-native grass once spread for acres, diverse wildlife now thrives in Upper Las Positas.
But we also have a whole different type of wetland here in the form of small vernal marshes, which are types of wetlands that don't have as much open water.
These small marshes span the entire project site, hosting plants that provide seeds, roots, and berries for native wildlife. Between the retention ponds and marshes, the restoration project created 2 acres of increasingly rare wetland habitat. But as large as it is, the Creeks Division had to spend very little to make the $2.1 million project happen.
The Creeks Division staff is always looking for grant opportunities to leverage the city's Measure B dollars with state, federal, and private foundation grant monies to construct our capital improvement projects. And in this case, the city was able to obtain a grant that covered almost the entire cost of construction of the project. So the Creeks Division paid for the design of the project, but when it came time for construction, we were able to receive grant funds to cover the cost.
In 5 years since the project's completion, new habitat continues to grow, and water quality testing demonstrates that the restoration is a success.
The water that flows off of the site actually is non-toxic, and so it's better for the areas downstream, such as the Royalboro Estuary. The amount of nutrients is decreased because of the amount of native plant growth, and so instead of those nutrients going downstream and causing problems such as algae blooms, like you'll see occasionally in the estuary, it's happening less and less because of this project.
So where that water before was moving through and picking up pollutants on its way down to Arroyo Beach, now we capture all of that water, and all of the water is treated. So we're capturing virtually 100% of the pollution that was previously moving through the site.
To learn more about the Creeks Division's restoration efforts, visit sbcreeks.com. This project is just one of many other restoration projects the Creeks Division has completed over the years. In addition to all of these great efforts, the Creeks Division also does water pollution enforcement. Up next, we tag along with Creeks Code Enforcement Officer Chris Clark to learn about what he does and why it's so important to maintaining good water quality.
At first glance, you'd say Chris Clark has an enviable job, driving around town and walking our scenic creeks. But when he's on the clock, Chris isn't focused on the beautiful environment. Instead, he's on the lookout for something that threatens it.
And I'm in charge of enforcing the water pollution laws for the city. We have our stormwater permit from the Regional Water Board, and we have to enforce the water pollution laws to meet the requirements for that permit.
In order to enforce these laws, Chris logs many hours traveling Santa Barbara's creeks and streets to look for human activities that negatively affect water quality.
When I'm driving around, this sort of thing with water in the gutter, entering the storm drain, that's really what I'm looking for. And I want to try to find the source of that water, find out if it's, just potable water, in which case, that's all right. but if it's got any pollutants in it, that's going to be a violation of the municipal code, and I got to try to contact whoever's discharging it or responsible for the property, try to get that stopped and cleaned up.
Like most cities, the main water pollution source in the city of Santa Barbara is non-point source pollution, or urban runoff. Urban runoff is a problem because it is so ubiquitous. It happens all over the city, and what we see is people washing out paintbrushes and concrete buckets and sediment and soapy water and antifreeze and oil and things like that they're being washed out in front of people's houses and people's homes, and they're being washed down the gutters and into the storm drain and into the creeks.
Urban runoff is a problem because it can threaten wildlife, cause habitat degradation, and lead to beach closures. Discharge violations often occur unintentionally or without the knowledge of the property owner. When this happens, Chris is there to alert the owner and give them the information they need to ensure it doesn't happen again.
A lot of times people don't really realize that, when they're washing something and all the sediment, dirt, oils or whatever from what they're cleaning, they don't really think about where the water's going. And a lot of times it'll run off the property into the storm drain system, into the creeks and oceans.
In addition to discovering illegal discharges while out in the field, Chris also responds to the reports from the public via the enforcement hotline. First-time infractions elicit a warning, but if they are repeated or if they are not corrected, the violator can be cited. But the Creek's code enforcement job is more about education than it is citation.
So the City Council has directed us to first try to educate someone. So if we have someone who is rinsing out paintbrushes in the gutter and allowing that water to leave the property, first thing we'll go out and do is talk to them, explain to them why that's a problem and why that's going to cause water pollution. And we will send them a letter, and we will let them know that it violates the law, but there will be no fine for that first offense. The idea is to educate people, and what we find more than 99% of the time is that a person didn't really think about where the water was going. And once they realize that, they know what they're doing, they won't let it happen again, and we don't have a lot of repeat offenders.
Human waste, another pollutant Chris is on the lookout for, can be very detrimental to water quality. Homeless encampments, in particular, raise a number of issues for the health of our creeks.
Having bacteria and other things coming from human waste is not something we want in the creeks and oceans, not what we want to be swimming in, not what we want to be surfing in. And bridges tend to be a hot spot for illegal dumping and transient encampments.
The Creeks Division employs contractors to clean up the creeks and tries to keep a continuous presence at known encampment locations to discourage transients from returning afterwards.
We do have to post 48-hour notices, give people a chance to remove their belongings, because we don't want to take things from people.
To track the effectiveness of their efforts and to keep tabs on water quality, Chris and other Creeks Division staff regularly grab water samples.
We're looking at indicator bacteria, we're looking at heavy metals and other things like that, just as a standard monitoring, so we know what's going on all the time. And then if we see a spike in something, then we can go and try to find a source.
We measure the effectiveness of our enforcement program both through water quality monitoring, but also by how many calls we get from the public, how quickly we're able to respond, and our ability to prevent those pollutants from making it their way to the storm drain. So if we get a call from someone in the public to our enforcement hotline, our code enforcement officer immediately will go out into the field and we'll try to stop that pollution in the gutter before it makes its way into the storm drain and into the creek. And that way we can definitely know when we're keeping pollution out of the waterways.
If you know of a creekside hotspot or you see some of these polluting activities taking place, call the Creeks Code Enforcement Hotline at 897-2688, or you can submit a report online at sbcreeks.com. Do you remember your first trip to the library? When a child learns to read, they open a new world of opportunity. That's why Santa Barbara is working hard to develop a new state-of-the-art children's library.
What moves me when I see kids here reminds me of when I was a kid. I was a voracious reader. My school librarian told me about a public library where there were even more books to choose from. So I begged my mom to take me to the library. So I had to strike a deal with her, and the deal was she would drop me off at the public library on the way to her grocery shopping, and I would pick out books in 45 minutes, and she'd pick me up afterwards. So we'd arrive back home, me with an armload of books and my mom with an armload of groceries. So we had a sustenance for the mind and the body.
But then my name is Desiree Cervantes, and I'm 7 years old. When I read to the dogs, they tell me which word I get wrong, and they help me sound it out. And I'm getting better at school.
I met Desiree a few months ago when I was at the children's area, and she walked into the library knowing that it was a place for her, but she walked right up to the children's desk, started talking to us. She was already confident, but she knew she needed help with her homework.
We come to the library because they help with the homework, and my daughter's teacher at school said they would help her with homework and to become a better reader.
My favorite thing to do in the library is that I read with the homework helpers, and that they help me read more better, because in school they say that you read more better than last year.
Since coming to the library, her teacher has told me that she has gotten better at reading, and she's better expressing herself, and they have her read more difficult books, which is good for her.
The great thing about the homework help time incorporated with parent literacy is that as the students are getting homework help, their parents are also getting to know other parents, and they're also getting literacy help at the same time. And so it's fun to see Desiree and Lydia come into the library together.
I am also learning more English here at the library, and it helps me to know how to help my kids at home. I always think that whatever my daughter ends up doing or becoming is going to be partly influenced by the library, and one day she can help me out as well.
I became a librarian because I love working with kids, and I love stories. Not necessarily just books, but I love how people come together. It's really exciting that the library is growing right now, and especially services for children.
What this makes the library special is that they help you read and sound it out, and they help you do your homework nice.
To learn more about the project and how you can contribute, visit sbchildrenslibrary.org. Well, that does it for this episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can give us a call at 564-5311. You can also watch the show online at citytv18.com. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.